Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to be Parshas Pikudei, and Emir Hashem B'Shal Tov Mitzlachos conclude Chumash Vayikra. And Pikudei, of course, caps off the conversation that has captured our attention for the last number of weeks, beginning the parasha of Truma. V'asuli Mikdash V'shechanti B'Sivcham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us instructions to create a home for the Ribono Shel Olam Kiviyachol in this world, to create a bridge between heaven and earth. And in Truma, Tetzav, we're given the instructions, and Vayakal Pikudei, we're told about the execution of those instructions, until finally we come to this week's parasha. Klal Yisrael brings all of the disparate parts of the Mishkan together. Moshe Rabbeinu puts everything together, quite literally, lifts up the walls of the Mishkan. But the parasha actually begins with an interesting detail regarding the people who worked alongside Moshe Rabbeinu. And whereas there are many craftsmen, many people with specialized skills that they honed for this particular purpose, there were two individuals who the Torah identifies by name. The first, this is in Parak Lamed Ches Pasach of Beis, chapter 38, verse 22, U'Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur. So the first was Betzalel. Betzalel was from the tribe of Yehuda, and the Torah simply says, Asa is kol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Betzalel executed whatever Moshe Rabbeinu told him to do, he did. And alongside Betzalel was another individual, Ahaliav ben Achisamach, who was from the tribe of Dan. He too was a faithful contractor to bring about this beautiful divine vision. And Rashi HaKodesh says something amazing. Rashi comments on the name Betzalel. And Rashi explains that name was not only Betzalel's given name, but it was also a descriptive name. How so? So Rashi says as follows, Ki Moshe siva leBetzalel, lasos tchila kelim v'achar kach mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he summoned Betzalel, he said, Betzalel, let's talk about how we're going to do everything. He gives Betzalel the following instructions. Betzalel, first, I need you to oversee the fabrication of all of the utensils, all of the kelim. And then only afterwards does he give Betzalel the instructions to build the actual structure of the Mishkan itself. Okay? Build utensils, then build structure. Betzalel reverts back to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, Amar lo Betzalel, minag ha'olam lasos tchila bayis v'achar kach mesim kelim b'socho. So Betzalel says, Moshe, excuse me, I don't think that's the right order. The general way of the world is first you build a home, you build a structure, and then you create the utensils with which you will fill the home. But to create the utensils first, then you have nowhere to put them when you finish. So Moshe Rabbeinu says utensils and then structure. But Betzalel says, no, I think it makes a little bit more sense to put the structure and then the utensils. Moshe Rabbeinu's response, Amar lo, kach shamati mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So ultimately, again, so Moshe Rabbeinu says, Betzalel, you know what, you're right. That's actually what I heard from the Ribono Shel Olam. In fact, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me to make the Mishkan, really he said, first do the structure, then do utensils. Amar Moshe, Bitzel kel hayisa. You must have been standing in the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vadai kach tziva li HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me. V'chein asa. And this is indeed what happened. HaMishkan tchila v'yachar kach asa kelim. First, the Mishkan, the structure, was created and fabricated, and then only afterwards did Betzalel get to work on the utensils. Okay, so you can look at this Rashi. Rashi is quoting over here from the Medrash, and you can understand over here that perhaps what happened, or what is it that's occurring? Is it Moshe Rabbeinu forgot? He got mixed up. In other words, Hashem told him, build the structure and then build the utensils, build the Mishkan, then build the Kelim. And Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't know, maybe he just got caught up with a lot of details, got a little bit overwhelmed, which would make sense, and just reversed the order. Or maybe he was just talking, in other words, lav dafka, that the order was supposed to be descriptive. Moshe was just saying, Betzalel, here's everything we have to do. But the Pasha Pshat is that Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake. He made a mistake. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to build the structure, then the utensils. When Moshe Rabbeinu conveyed it, he gave over utensils and then structure. So, okay, Moshe Rabbeinu is a human being. Torah goes out of his way to tell about Moshe Rabbeinu's mistakes. He made a mistake. Betzalel says, Moshe, I think intuitively the other way makes sense. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Betzel, Kel, you clearly reside in the shade of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kiviyachol, like you overheard our conversation, and you're right. Let's build structure and then utensils. Perhaps, there's something different that's unfolding over here. And perhaps this is a moment where Moshe Rabbeinu is nurturing greatness in the next generation of leaders. You know, part of what a leader has an obligation to do is create like a succession plan. So what happens? In other words, no person can be the leader forever. So what happens when the leader's gone? Who comes next? And a lot of times you find that you have great people, but when they don't make a succession plan, when they don't make a plan for the future, so the leader's gone, whether he dies or he moves on, and then there's no one to be mamshich, there's no hamshacha, there's no continuity. And we know that Moshe Rabbeinu understood this. This is why, again, he took Yoshua under his wing, constantly learning with Yoshua, guiding Yoshua, so that amazingly enough, when Yoshua assumes the mantle of leadership, he's ready. I'm sure there was a learning curve, but Lamaise, he was ready. And perhaps that's what's happening over here as well. Perhaps Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to develop a certain quality within Betzalel, and perhaps the following is happening. Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly what he said to Betzalel. He understood it. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu heard from God. First you make the structure, make the Mishkan, and then make the Kalim. And intuitively, that's what you have to do. But perhaps he says over to Betzalel, he reverses the order. He says, Betzalel, I need you to make the utensils, and then I need you to go ahead and make the Mishkan. And what was Moshe Rabbeinu looking for? Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to see Betzalel, are you going to be the kind of person who just gets the instructions, just get the details, and just go with it, and you don't think, and you don't contemplate, and you don't introspect, but you just take it. You take the information, Moshe Rabbeinu said it, let's go. Or are you the kind of person who receives instructions, receives information, but internalizes it, thinks about it, cogitates over it, and then thinks to himself, maybe there's a different and better way to do things. Perhaps this is not an episode of Moshe Rabbeinu mixing up the divine message, but Moshe Rabbeinu purposely giving Betzalel a different message than Akadosh Baruch Hu gave him in order to see, will Betzalel use his koach to intuit and to understand that there's a better way to do things? Or to say a little bit differently, perhaps what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to cultivate in Betzalel, and by extension us, through this messaging of this pasuk as well, is a sense of imagination. In life, when we think about imagination, we kind of think about it like in childish terms, right? The child imagines that he's this, or imagine that it is, or my imagination is I'm going to be like the basketball player, I'm going to be the astronaut, that type. So, okay, there is definitely childish imagination, which is beautiful and innocent and incredible as well, but there's a different kind of imagination, adult imagination. And adult imagination is one of the most powerful tools because it pushes us to think outside of the construct of what is and to think about what can be. And the Ribono Shel Olam himself tried to instill this with us. Every day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tries to teach us to imagine. When we left Egypt, we left Mitzrayim. So remember again, how were we sustained? How were millions of people sustained in the desert? And the answer is man. And what happened with man? The Gemara says man was incredible. But man was like this nondescript white clump. And what did man taste like? Man tasted like whatever you wanted. But you had to imagine something. Right? In other words, if you couldn't conjure up a flavor, I don't know what the default taste of man was. But your man could taste like anything you wanted it to be. But you had to go ahead and close your eyes and say, okay, today, mamish, I'm ready for the steak. Or today, I'm ready for the piece of gefilte fish. Or today, I'm ready for challenge. Or today, I want to get whatever your imagination, clearly I don't have such a great imagination, but whatever your imagination wants. But you had to imagine. You had to imagine. Akadosh Baruch Hu, it's correct, right? Akadosh Baruch Hu could have just said, here's the man, it tastes like this. Or on even better, Mondays, the man is Big Ziti. Tuesday, the man is Shabbos leftovers. Wednesday, the man is going to be schnitzel. And just put a different Monday, right? That's it, hot lunch. Right? Give hot lunch schedule in the desert, right? Thursday, of course, is pizza, right? Just do that. Why is it you want your man to taste your man? Akadosh Baruch Hu is trying to cultivate within us a sense of imagination. He wants us to be able to think beyond what is in front of us now and wants us to be able to imagine something even greater that is beyond. That is the entire avoda of the man. And that's why, interestingly enough, imagination is difficult. When Moshe Rabbeinu describes the man, remember how he describes the man? The pasuk says, Vaya'ancha, vayarivecha, vayachilcha asaman. Hashem afflicted you, and you were hungry when he fed you the man. What? Man is affliction, man is difficult way to man is the best thing in the world. You know what? Sometimes it's a lot easier for someone to serve you a plate of food, and the other person decided what it is, and you didn't have to decide. And you didn't have to use any imagination. Sometimes that's easy, but every day I have to imagine. Every day I have to think. Every day I have to see this white clump of man in front of me, and I have to think about something bigger beyond that. That's hard. Imagination is hard. Imagination takes work, but imagination is the tool, is the very vehicle that allows us to transcend our current circumstances and become something even greater and bigger. And perhaps, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing over here with Betzalel. He's saying B'Tzalel, right? Moshe Rabbeinu knew what the instructions were. They're intuitive and they're logical. Make the structure, make the Mishkan, and then make the Kalim. So Moshe Rabbeinu calls B'Tzalel, here you go. You have the great zichus to be the chief, right? You're the contractor. You're the GC, you're the general contractor for the job. B'Tzalel, go ahead, take it. But B'Tzalel, here's what you need to do: make the utensils, and then go ahead and make the structure. And what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to happen is he wanted B'Tzalel to be troubled by this. There were two ways this could have gone. B'Tzalel could have made the utensils and made the structure. And then what would have happened? Nothing would have happened. It would have been fine. It would have been fine because Kadosh Baruch Hu was orchestrating this entire thing. But Moshe Rabbeinu wanted B'Tzalel was to imagine, to think out of the box, to get the instructions and then be able to say, wait, there's a different way to do this. There's a better way to do this, to exercise that imagination muscle and be able to think outside of the confines of what's in front of you right now. I know Moshe said utensils and structure, but I think that there's a better way. I think we could do structure and then utensils. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, B'Tzalel, just understand that if you have imagination, if you could think beyond what is right in front of you right now, B'Tzel Kel, then you live in the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the Ribono Shel Olam is all imagination. Because Ribono Shel Olam need not be confined or defined by any one thing. He is everything and anything. And when we exercise that koach of imagination, we have that same ability as well. The Ribono Shel Olam wants us to think big. He wants us to think beyond our current circumstances. He wants us to live in His shadow. He wants us to eat man. This is what the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants from us day in and day out. To never be confined by what it is that is right in front of us. You know, the Ramchal says that a chassid, he says chasidus, what does it mean to be a chassid? And the Ramchal says something amazing. He says, definition of a chassid is someone who sees what the will of Hashem is. Right? So again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses His will through 613 mitzvos. And the chassid says, okay, now that I see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will is, I know what God likes. And because I know what God is like, I'm going to apply that to other areas that are not scripted. And I'm going to do things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants of me, even though He's not demanding it of me. The chassid is someone who uses imagination. The chassid is someone who eats man. The chassid is someone who doesn't just get instructions and execute, but if someone gets instructions and he thinks about, what is the Ratzon Hashem? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want of me? And how can I always do it better? The chassid lives in the shade, in the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The chassid constantly uses that imagination muscle. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to teach B'Tzalel. And by extension, Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to teach us. And Chavra, not only is this like a tremendous lesson in Parashas Pikudei, but we have the great Zchus to Shabbos, Emir Hashem, to bench Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Haba Aleinu L'Tova, Emir Hashem on Sunday. And we're getting ready for Pesach. And the entire essence of Pesach is Chayiv Adam Liros Es Atzmo Ki Iluhu Yotza Mitzrayim. A person is obligated to see himself as if he left Egypt. Now we'll have plenty of time to talk about what exactly that means, but one thing is clear. Chazal are telling us, you know what Pesach is about? Imagination. Imagine you left Egypt. Imagine what it means to be free. Imagine what it means to transcend your circumstances. Pesach is all about imagination. Klal Yisrael is all about imagination. The man is all about imagination. B'Tzalel is all about imagination, because if you could cultivate that imagination muscle, if you could work that, then you could really be anything, anywhere. Chayiv Adam Liros, as Hashem says, you're free. And a free person, right, a slave, doesn't have the luxury of imagination because a slave is boxed in by his circumstances. But a free person, a free man, a Ben Chorin, has the ability to think about not just what is, not just the instructions that are in front of me, not just the circumstances that are present, but what can be. We should be Zochem Hashem to flex this muscle. Not only just to get instructions and execute, not only to go ahead and do the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks us to do, but think about, how can we be more for Hashem? How can we be more for others? How can we be more for ourselves? How can we become B'Tzalel-like people? How can we ingest the beautiful man of imagination each and every day? And for Zocha to do that, then not only will this Yom Tov, not only will this month of Nisan be a month filled with imagination, but life will be filled with so many incredible, beautiful, holy accomplishments that only come from B'Tzalels and those who eat them on. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a good Chodesh.